Mother Nature is the mother of all superpowers, because for the longest time, we thought it was about military might, as I said. Then for a while we thought if you had the economic power, you became a superpower. Then I said it was about technology. In a way, has this forced us to sort of relook at the seeming models that existed? Because look at Europe. Thomas Friedman spends on an average 11% of their GDP on healthcare, and then look at sub-Saharan Africa, or indeed South Asia and even India, where we spend a fraction of that. So I'm just wondering whether the definitions of superpower also need to change, as you say, as Mother Nature is found as the mother of all powers, that the Human Development Index, in a sense, is going to define a country's power perhaps much more now than ever before.
Well, there's no question that the age we're going into, resilience. Let me put it this way. I tend to look at the world through the prism of natural systems. So in natural systems, when the climate changes, who thrives and who doesn't? In natural systems, the ecosystems that produce complex adaptive networks, where all the elements of the network, all the elements of the ecosystem network together to enhance their resilience and propulsion, ability to grow and move forward. Well, I think it's true with also human systems. We're in the middle of 3 climate changes in what once. We're in the middle of change of the climate. We're in the middle of change of the climate of technology right now. And we're in the middle of the change of the climate of globalization. You and I are demonstrating that right now, okay? We're going through 3 climate changes at once. And to me, the countries, the communities, the companies that will thrive when the climate changes are those that produce what I call complex adaptive coalitions, where all the elements of the political or social ecosystem work together to maximize their resilience and propulsion. And those that don't, Mother Nature will have her way with them. And she has no problem dealing with her bad biological experiments by returning them to the manufacturer. Okay, and she'll do that with human communities, and she'll do that with natural ecosystems.
So, your big thesis on globalization, as you expressed in The World is Flat, do you believe now that because of the pandemic, will the world be more interconnected in a way, or will societies sort of will withdraw inwards, will look within and first settle problems in the neighborhood before they look at settling problems a million miles away? Is that the way you see the world in the next decade in particular?
A very good question. And the answer is yes. That is, it's going to be both. So that what the pandemic is doing is forcing companies, including India Today, to dramatically digitize their systems in 1 year that they would have done 10 years. Like this conversation we're having, this probably would have happened without a pandemic 5 years from now. You never would have thought of us doing this. I'm in a hotel room in Palo Alto, okay? So the pandemic has dramatically accelerated digitization. I was walking, I work out of the Washington Bureau of the New York Times. I happened to bump into our editor, Washington editor, on the street outside of my favorite Indian restaurant, actually, in DC. And we bumped into each other, and she said, "Tom, I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. I have to go home and get back to work." I said, "What did you say?" She said, "I have to go home and get back to work." Okay, we were standing outside our office, which has been closed for basically 2 years. So that shows you what a mind shift that has happened. It's entered the language, our vocabulary. I have to go home and get back to work. So that's a product of the pandemic. But the pandemic also, as you say, has exposed these tensions. It's exposed gulfs. It's like, Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you see who's wearing a bathing suit and who isn't. And the pandemic was a tide like that. And it shows you who has a good healthcare system and who doesn't. Who has politics where people can collaborate and work together under stress and who doesn't. So it really exposed all of those things. It's not either or, but the world's going to get more digitized as a result of the pandemic, and as a result, more fused. And it's going to expose fissures wider and wider.